Hello and welcome to this edition of Dr. Clark Reports. I'm your host, Dr. Gary Clark, and my guest is my friend, Miss Erika McConduit, and she's the Interim Director and President of the Urban League of Greater New Orleans. And yes, my friend, greetings and welcome.
Welcome to you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and tell me what's going on with the Urban League these days of Greater New Orleans. What's happening over there?
So much.
Yes.
So much. We are extremely busy, but very proud of the work that we're doing. Every year we serve about 10,000 individuals, and I think that's a number that often gets lost on people, but I think that's something that we need to highlight more, because we are touching 10,000 people each year with all of our programs. And the way our programs are structured, it's divided into our centers of excellence. And so we have a Center for Education and Youth Development, a Center for Community and Economic Development, and a Center for Policy and Social Justice. So all of our programs are housed within those centers, and we have some really stellar programs.
Okay, and those, so you operate through the centers, and that's where the activity moves.
Absolutely.
And you're at the top of that pyramid. What is it like now since you've been the leader over there? How's it been for you?
It's been great. It's been great. It's been a whirlwind, a steep learning curve. But I think the fact that I've been at the Urban League for over 4 years now as the Executive Vice President was great preparation to step in as Interim President. I was already familiar with all of our work and really could just take that and build upon it. And so that's what we're doing.
And that's great, and it's wonderful. And where you all located in the city, so folks will know exactly?
So we're split up, actually, because our building, our main headquarters, was expropriated for the VA hospital project.
Right.
And so right now we have programs operating in different places. Our executive offices are at 2912 Canal Street, directly across from RTA, and from that hub we can direct anyone to any one of our centers. We also have an office at 1700 Josephine. We also occupy space on the second floor of Daughters of Charity. Our Urban League College Track program is in the Bywater Daughters of Charity location. So,
and you have a ninth ward.
And we have a Head Start Center that we just completed a new facility project to house our Head Start Center, and so we're very proud of that. That's in the Abundant Square area, formerly the Desire.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, with these centers of excellence that you have, these various centers that you took over, what has been the greatest joy for you? Which center that you say, hey, that you watch it grow, and now that you're at the top of the pyramid, which one?
Yes. Well,
if there is one.
You know what? I can say that there's been growth in all of our centers. I can tell you that probably more of my work over the past 4 years has been centered around education and youth development, so I can certainly speak to all the progression that we've had there. Community and economic development is, quite frankly, a boom right now. We are expanding rapidly in our workforce development program, and there's such a need for that in the city that I'm excited about how we're able to make greater impact in that particular area. And then also in our economic inclusion efforts, I think that is another area that we're very proud of. And there's great opportunity for us to expand our work in the policy area.
Right, and you know, I had the Nadas King at this table with the NAACP,
Yes.
and he talked about the fact how the NAACP is very advocacy oriented.
Yes.
And of course, with you all over the Urban League, that you're very programmatic and program oriented, and that distinction is one that a lot of people don't realize.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think people often liken the Urban League to the civil rights era, and they may not be as familiar with our portfolio at this time, but not just locally, nationally. And every Urban League affiliate, that's the beauty of the movement, is that we have the ability to tailor our services to our demographic in our particular cities. And so we know that our programmatic thrust has really made a distinct difference in the lives of community members in the Greater New Orleans area. However, we also do advocacy work. It looks different, and that's where we are complementary to the NAACP, in that our advocacy work, a lot of that is done more so behind the scenes and making sure that we serve as a bridge builder between somewhat opposing forces, and maybe bringing them around a table similar to this, and having that discussion take place and perhaps work towards solutions. And that's where we really focus our advocacy areas, is how do we make a difference and work towards solutions.
Now, in attracting individuals to participate with the Urban League, what is your approach? What is the methodology involved? Because I know I'm pretty sure it's probably tiered, yes.
It is, and so certainly we are a membership organization, so people can become members of the Urban League, and we often advertise that as one option. But from a programmatic and a service delivery standpoint, we do that based on a particular program. And so we know for our education and youth work, a lot of that is focused around parent engagement. We have to work through parents in order to work for the betterment of students and student achievement. We also partner a lot with other youth-serving organizations and, let's say, education entities, districts and schools and things like that. For our workforce and economic development work, we work directly with small businesses around providing technical assistance. So we'll have partners like the chambers and things like that, LSBDC, I mean,
yes.
those kinds of partners. And for workforce, we go directly to the people. We advertise, we recruit. A lot of our program work is demographic specific, and so we target those specific demographics for particular programs. But certainly from a broad brush stroke, we try to touch every level of the community, whether it's, like I said, a person receiving service or a policymaker, where we need to inform them of what communities are actually dealing with in these days and how policies directly impact the families they are elected to serve.
So I see that stratification, and that stratification is done in such a way that you actually can reach almost every aspect of the community.
That's absolutely our work.
And that's great. It's outstanding. What has been perhaps the most severe challenge you've had since you've taken over?
You know what? I think our challenges is similar to many nonprofits and quite frankly, other types of organizations in this particular time is that's a fiscal challenge. And that's because there's so much competition around funding sources and making sure that for the work that we do from the nonprofit side of things, that people see the value. And so a lot of funders are requiring more partnerships, requiring more outputs and things like that. And that's great. And because it forces collaboration. But, much like any sector, nonprofit is no different from any other sector in that it takes time to build those partnerships and really have those strategic outputs that we can articulate to funders and evaluate our programs in such a way that we are able to speak to those particular outputs. So I think from a fiscal perspective, that's probably one of our biggest challenges. It's always hard to convince people that nonprofits do the people's work.
Precisely.
They do the people's work. And so that's where you really need to make the investments, looking at those support services. We do a phenomenal job with, let's say, an after-school program. And so convincing a funder that perhaps, not only should you fund the school directly, but it's these support services that really help to make students achieve. And so investing in programs like after-school programs is absolutely a worthy investment. Investing in things like parent engagement and parent leadership and capacity building, that's an absolute worthy investment because you need parents to be on board to guarantee student success.
You absolutely do, and you sure do. Now, structurally speaking, how does the Urban League fit within that umbrella, or should I say within that pyramid, in terms of the National Urban League? And do you have a degree of autonomy? How does that work?
We do. There are 95 affiliates under the umbrella of the National Urban League, but every individual affiliate functions like an independent entity. We subscribe to the tenets of the National Urban League, and there are core areas that they know and we know make communities whole and make communities thrive. And so, like I said earlier, the beauty is that every affiliate can, though, tailor those tenants to their particular market. So we're run very independently. We do get varying levels of support from the National Urban League, and that has been a great asset for us. And so they are able to, let's say, apply for larger federal grants because they are an intermediary organization, and then as affiliates we can access and directly compete for those funds. And so that's been a great benefit, and certainly just having the support and the network structure from affiliates throughout the country. Many of us run similar programs, have similar efforts, and so we're able to share best practices and learn from one another and leverage each other. And so I think it's a great network. work.
Oh, I like that. Now, when we look at this, what would you say perhaps is an affiliate, another Urban League chapter that you say you like? You like their form, you like that structure, you like what they do, you like the personality of that particular Urban League affiliate.
Right.
Is it Boston or is
that's
it
a really tough question.
I know
That's a tough
when
question.
you look at one, you say this. I like the way they run their ship.
Do you know what? I
Yes.
really like and admire the way Miami runs its particular affiliate. They have identified a specific target area for their program services, and that's single women. And so with that specific focus, they are able to tailor all of their work to that particular demographic, be it from, like I said, child care and education-based programs to economic development, all the way up to real estate. And they actually own and manage a multitude of properties that house low-income women.
Well,
So-
and that is somewhat progressive, very progressive.
It's very progressive. And their real estate arm of their agency is vast.
Right, because I know there are models out there that we like to look at and that we know that, because I know what we do here in New Orleans is very good.
Yes.
And the New Orleans chapter has always been outstanding, has always been at the forefront of the Urban League experience.
You know, I can say that a lot of chapters would look at us from our education reform initiatives and the work that we do with small businesses. I think that those are two key spaces that we operate in that other affiliates often contact us for, because New Orleans has been a leader, if you would say, in reforming our education system, looking at how we play in that space and really have carved out a particular area that, quite frankly, was falling under the radar of the reform, and that is around, you know, building parent and community capacity to engage in the reform that's happening. I think other affiliates who are now kind of going through their own education reforms in their communities are looking at us to say, what can we learn from you that we can take to our affiliates? Similarly, in like I said, the economic development space and the work that we do with small businesses and particularly minority contractors and things like that, to make sure that they gain access to the opportunities happening in the rebuild of New Orleans. I think that's another model that other affiliates would like to learn from us.
Now, in that vein, tell my viewing audience about your workforce expansion.
So
workforce, development expansion. Oh, yes.
So we are rapidly expanding in the area of workforce. We look at our workforce delivery program from two angles, and that's the job seeker and the employer. And so we tailor our services to both. We have provided services for employers who are looking to find local employees. And, you know, that's what we want to do. We want to match individuals, job seekers, with employment opportunities. But we also want to make sure it's livable wages and things like that. So we work with the employer around the opportunities that they are putting out and making sure that they gain access to local New Orleanians who are looking for jobs. On the flip side, some job seekers that are, quite frankly, the hardest to serve, or some would categorize them as the hardest to serve. We say, you know, some say at risk, we say at opportunity. And that's how we...
Oh, I like that frame. That's a great frame.
That is a great frame. We need to start looking at these individuals at opportunity. And so we have a specific program to serve high school dropouts and some ex-offenders. And so we're between the ages of 18 to 24. And that's because it's a federal grant where there are specific targets in terms of age. But we know that is an often left out group of individuals. And so we are working very intensely to recruit and get those individuals on board and provide GED services, if we can help them to obtain their high school diploma, and then certainly job training, certification, soft skills training, and ultimately job placement. And that's the goal.
Now, that's wonderful. And again, I would like to remind my viewing audience that I'm Gary Clark, and I'm speaking with my friend Erika McConduit, and she is the interim president director of the Urban League of Greater New Orleans. Now, I know you're a native of the city, you are also a graduate of Howard University, my university. but will you please tell my viewing audience the Erika McConduit story? Yes, my friend.
The Erika McConduit story. I am a native New Orleanian, much like you introduced me as. My whole family's from here. I'm one of 4 children. My mother is a retired Shell employee, and my father is a retired, but now deceased principal in Orleans Parish School Board. So when I say education is in my veins, it's been in my veins for a very long time. But I went to St. Leo the Great for primary school, Ursuline Academy for high school, Howard University for college, and Loyola School of Law. And so that's my education trajectory. From Howard, I actually wanted to get some work experience before I fully committed myself to law school. And I think that that's an interesting path that people should consider. I know that we put a lot of focus in going directly through.
The direct path, right.
Yes, but you know what? There's so much to be learned and gained from actual on-the-job experience. And so it made me a more serious student. So after Howard, I actually worked for MTV Networks. I was a communications major at Howard. And
a young person, although that was...
I moved to the big New York City, the Big Apple, and I say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
That's absolutely true.
And so I found my way through the big maze and MTV Networks. I worked for VH1 and Nickelodeon in on-air promotions and production management, and then said, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready. I know surely that I want to do law school. It made me a much more serious student. I came back to Loyola, had a phenomenal time at Loyola, did great things, competed on moot court and things like that. And then came out, graduated, sat for the bar. I'm licensed in Louisiana, and then Katrina hit. And so that was a really tough time. So, you know, much like everyone,
right.
I had to decide what to do. And so I was 9 months pregnant. Let me also say that when Katrina hit, I was 9 months pregnant, evacuating, not a pretty picture. Sat in the car for about 17 or 18 hours to get to Houston.
Yes.
Had to get off and demand that the state trooper let me out. I had to use the restroom. I was pregnant. You have to open this barricade. And so nonetheless, we made it to Houston. But I decided to go back to New York and ended up in White Plains, New York, and stayed there for 3 years after Katrina. That's where I made the shift into nonprofit management. I took a job as the chief operating officer of the YWCA for several years and loved every minute of it. I fell in love with the sector.
Very community.
You know what? I said, people don't speak enough about nonprofit careers and that being viable opportunities for folks. You know, I have truly enjoyed it. Is mission-driven work.
Precisely.
And I loved every minute of it. The YWCA is a different organization. It is global. And so I had an opportunity to represent the Northeast region of YWs in Africa for the World Council meeting in Kenya. So I had phenomenal experiences. I also started teaching in New York at a college in New York. And taught criminal justice classes, legal classes, intro to the American legal system, and things like that. And then decided for all the good things that I was doing in New York, I really felt like I wanted and needed to be doing it back in New Orleans. And so I decided it was time to move home. And so I came back. And there was a job opportunity with the Urban League, and I soon thereafter joined as the vice president of programs. Did that for a little while, and then the then CEO, Nolan, restructured the organization, and I was promoted to the executive vice president. And then when he left, I stepped in as interim president.
And he's off to Los Angeles now.
And he's in Los Angeles leading the Los Angeles Urban League affiliate.
So from the Big Apple to the Big Easy.
Big Apple to the Big Easy.
Oh, yes. Well, tell me this. Who were some individuals who influenced you along the way? Who, personally and professionally, who were your influences?
My mother, personally, because it was very interesting. She never gave up on education. She stopped going to college when she got married and started having kids and took a job at Shell. And so she was at Shell for 40 years, but all throughout that time continued to go back to school, taking one class at a time here and there, all the way up through finally obtaining her bachelor's. And so she actually graduated college the same year that my younger brother graduated college. And so,
well, that's great.
From a personal
Yes.
story, and that is such an inspiration to me that, she felt that, like I said, 40 years into her career, she knew still that that was a goal of hers, and she was committed to finishing it. And now she's talking about going and get her master's. So, and she's retired. But anyway, I think, and all the while she had 4 kids to raise. And so I think from a personal level, she writes books. You may know her. She's an author in New Orleans. She writes children's stories. So from a personal level, my mom has been a wonderful influence on me in terms of setting goals and no matter what, sticking to them, seeing them through. I'd say professionally, I've had great mentors along the way. Kim Boyle was a great mentor. Judge Love continues to be. But there was the CEO at the YWCA when I was first landing in New York post-Katrina. She was incredible. She was incredible to me. She helped stabilize me. I certainly went through several medical conditions on the heels of Katrina. I think a lot of people dealt with stuff. And so she was very sensitive to that, and she really helped, like I said, professionally, help connect the dots for me, taking all of my experiences from, like I said, children's programming and things like that, and production management, communications experiences, legal experience, management experiences, and really weave them together for me during my time as the Chief Operating Officer at the YWCA. She continued to push me to do more, to strive for more, and so I will forever be grateful to her for really helping to set me on this path and develop me as a leader.
Well, in that vein, what was the driving force behind your civic engagement?
You know what, I say, my father being a principal, I grew up with that. Service-minded philosophy, because I think that when you dedicate your life and your careers to things like education, that is service nonetheless, and that's why I continue still to this day to teach. I teach as an adjunct when possible at Dillard University, and so that continues in me. The other is that Katrina was a very humbling experience for me. And so, like I said, I was a lawyer. I was practicing. I had, accepted my position with a firm that I had been working with for 2 years, and that was where I thought I was going to be. And when Katrina hit, as tough and challenging as it was for me, I felt like, what? I have to do something different. I have been given so much. To whom to whom much is given, much is required. And that really is the saying that I live by. And so I said, I have to do something different. And entering the nonprofit field, feeling that you're doing things that impact others is such a gratifying feeling for me, and it's something that, like I said, I am so grateful that I've found, and I have committed myself to this kind of service.
Well, with nonprofits, you do well while doing good, and, and that's the beauty of it. And you don't lose. It's win-win.
It is win-win. Like I said, one program that I do want to touch on, I talked about our ed reform work with parents and things. I just want to mention our Urban League College Track program.
Oh, yes.
And I have to, because we serve students in the high school space, 200 students that we recruit from all over the city. And it's not the highest level achievers. We really recruit the next tier that we know if we provide them with enough support that they can achieve. And so we have every year, this is our second year graduating our senior class, because we've kind of graded up through the program. 100% of our seniors are accepted into four-year colleges. And that is a remarkable accomplishment.
Yes, and this is a program that for admissions, what do they have to do to be a part of it?
You know what? We actually do require a pretty extensive application and interview process, and that's because we want from the gate, and that's for the exiting 8th graders entering 9th grade. We want them from the outset to know that this is what it looks like to complete something like a college application. And these are the things that people are going to require of you. And so start modeling that early. Of course, we help them through the application and prep them for the interview and things like that, but it's open to anyone. I mean, like I said, we don't recruit the highest achievers. Their likelihood of going to college is already there. And so we know that we want to work with those that, with support, can achieve.
And prep is necessary, preparatory work, because middle-class parents, upper-income parents, they prep their kids.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to provide an environment where individuals who may not have that access, assistance to get into the places that they need to be.
Absolutely. I mean, we do so much with them. We provide leadership training. We have master-level tutors for them, ACT prep. We have a heavy STEM focus that we're taking with them because we know that we want them to explore more STEM fields
Science,
in college.
Technology, education,
engineering and math.
Mathematics, yes.
We know that that's the jobs of the future. And quite frankly, our students' technology is much easier and attractive to them than it ever was for us growing up. And so we want to take what they know from texting and the phones and things like that and enhance it and say, you know what, let's take these practical applications and then connect them to what you may not even consider in terms of a major, and that's engineering.
Precisely.
And so, you know, really helping to make those everyday connections.
Well, in the remaining moments that we have, we live in an environment here because you're not on an island.
Right.
And we know there's some very, very big difficulties that you have here in the city of New Orleans.
Yes.
We have about 2 minutes or so remaining. What are some of the difficulties that you see in the city itself?
I think that the level of minority inclusion across sectors is a big challenge. We need to have greater African American participation in what's happening in education. We need people to step up and explore careers like teaching, principals, charter school leaders, and charter board members. That's where it's happening in education. We need to get greater involvement. One second. We need greater inclusion for minority and small businesses. We need more opportunities for them to participate in what's happening. And lastly, we need more relaxed policies around helping to employ individuals with prior issues in their background.
Oh, absolutely. That's necessary.
That's a huge hurdle.
So in that construct, what is your vision for the Urban League?
My vision is to have a greater impact in changing some of what is happening in education reform, looking at early childhood education. We're participating in the pilot program to make sure that we are assessing our young people and making sure that they are kindergarten ready, so that we're not having an achievement gap conversation ever. So making sure that we're putting them on a trajectory for success in education and college achievement and graduation. Workforce, we need to get more of our people in jobs, good paying jobs, livable wages that they can support families, and we need greater expansion of our minority businesses. So those are big, and policy is going to be a major focus of ours, because a lot of these things in all of those sectors hinge on the policies that impact those particular programs.
Absolutely, and I want to thank you for joining me.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
And I want to thank.
I had a great time.
Oh, it's the best.
We can talk all day.
To say the least. And I want to thank my viewers for tuning in. And as always, it's been a pleasure.